So Dark the Moon progresses on as the movie, the toy line is progressing on pretty well, and as far as Wave 1 and 2 go, it's been a little bit of a hit and miss with me, you know? I mean, I like some of them, but I really don't like the others. In fact, I haven't found anything that really impresses me that much. But I gotta say that this latest one, well, it's horrific. So this horrifying insect creature is Crankcase. And yes, there was a G1 Crankcase, and no, this one has nothing whatsoever to do with him. This is a completely different character and a completely different playing field with completely different characteristics. Whereas I know nothing about the character of the original G1 Crankcase, I can tell you that this guy is one of those grunts. You know, there's always a grunt. In G.I. Joe or anything you can think of, there's always a grunt, you know, the guy that just gets left behind, has to fight on the front lines to make sure that all the important characters get away safely, you know, that kind of stuff. You know, I think that's prejudice, you know, that just has to stop right now. I say, let's hear it for the little man, and the grunts, too. I say we gotta stand up for what we know is right, and who we know has got their place in the world. I think we should hear it for the grunts. I'm electing Crankcase as our next president! What? Too much? So when I first heard about Crankcase and the other various grunts in the movie, I thought that they were going to maybe at least try to give them a little bit of character by maybe calling them the Insecticons. Not like, I mean, you gotta admit, by looking at them, they do look kind of like Insecticons with the giant pincers and the four eyes and the upper bite and all that stuff. I mean, you know, he just kind of has that overtones of an insect, I suppose. But I thought they were going to do something with that, you know? I mean, what is this for other than to look like an insect? And maybe that's what he was supposed to be. I mean, aside from some various pieces of vehicle kibble, he doesn't really look that much like he turns into an actual vehicle. Unless, of course, you turn him around, then, of course, yeah, it's obvious. But still, I just thought maybe they could work that in somehow. Just make him say that he was the Insecticons or an Insecticon. Maybe. But it was false hope, of course. Instead, he's just one more retarded character that just does nothing but and brings absolutely nothing to the storyline. Yes, no intelligent characters, no bombshell, shrapnel, or kickback for these guys. It's all about the slaughter. But as for the Transformer himself, he looks actually pretty cool and almost passable for a bait-formed version of the Insecticons. And he does, you know, like I said, have overtones of an insect. I mean, look at those giant pincers up there. They're pretty horrific. But they're also a pain in the neck to try to get them to be positioned so they actually look right. But then again, when is a giant pair of pincers on your back going to look right anyway? And I gotta say, that's one of the more horrifying head sculpts I've seen in the movie line yet. I mean, look at that thing, man! If that doesn't tell you it's an insect, I don't know what does. And then there's always the little bit of, well, possibly a racial slur in there with the dreadlocks and everything. Is he really supposed to be from Jamaica? Overall, the robot mode's actually pretty solid, especially for the feet. I like the feet. But then again, that's not really supposed to be the focal point of the interest of the toy. But the legs are good too. They look kind of spindly and sort of insect-like, if you will. But then again, when it gets up to the top of the body, it just starts to kind of, I don't know, fade under the light of a... I don't know, it's just, what is that and that? Just pieces of the vehicle, just blatantly poking off of it. I mean, what about that? And this, the entire front end of the car, what is that? While Crankcase does have his fair share of kibble, it doesn't really ruin it too much for me, I guess. But then again, his mech-tech weapon is one of the coolest ones I've seen so far. In fact, I think it's the coolest. I mean, look at that. You just got a gun, and then there's a claw that reaches out and claws you. Hours of fun. He looks pretty cool as one of the faceless soldiers under Shockwave's command, and actually goes pretty well. He even makes for an excellent adversary to someone like Deluxe Roadbuster, too. They make a pretty nice couple. But a robot mode doesn't mean for nothing unless the transformation and vehicle mode are almost as good as the robot mode. Or does that make sense? I don't know. But let's look at the vehicle mode. So here's the vehicle mode for Crankcase. And, well, it's an SUV. That's one thing's for sure. But, I mean, it's It's okay, I guess. Just not that great. Admittedly, it is amazing to see that horrid robot mode transform nice and compact into this nice little black SUV sort of car, but it just doesn't look right. It looks so uneventful. It just doesn't seem like it's got that much going on. I mean, it's light and it feels kind of cheaply made, and it's just the panels. There's so many panels that there's not a whole lot of actual transforming. It's just like snapping panels in line. And since half of the panels are on his back, it's just, you just kind of stretch them out and you're done. But it is a neat vehicle idea. I mean, movie Stockade though was so much better than this. But then again, this robot mode was a bit more interesting than movie Stockade in my mind. But yeah, I mean, it's okay. It just doesn't look like it could take on Ironhide. Then there's always the age-old problem of not all the wheels hitting the ground at the same time. And then when you think about it, there's a lot of undercarriage under there too. It just, I don't know, it doesn't seem to hit me right, I guess. But maybe I'm being a bit too picky. Like, the lights on there is a nice touch, and it looks like one of those black SUVs you'd see on 24, or see the president being carried around in or something. Then, of course, you've got the mech tech weapon that, of course, stores on the vehicle mode. Of course, it just goes right on there. I don't really like that vehicle mode as much anyway, so it doesn't really ruin it that much for me. I mean, if it was a nice, sleek SUV, I would be screaming and hollering about how it looks ugly and everything, but the vehicle already looks ugly. In my mind, this actually helps it, and it is a really neat mech tech weapon. Like, ba-bang! Ba-bang! So yeah, Crankcase. The robot mode's kind of neat, but it's just a little weird. And the vehicle mode, while it is kind of neat, I mean, I guess, as the windows are painted black, so that looks neat. But other than that, the vehicle is just kind of, I don't know, I don't like it that much. It doesn't hit me. But the mech tech weapon is nice, but when you're relying on the gimmick, something's obviously gone wrong. And then the transformation also is nice, like a puzzle, and it's fun to kind of do, and it's not too fiddly. So the transformation is kind of neat, but the robot mode is cool, but it really lets me down that they didn't just go ahead and make him a full-on Insecticon. I mean, they could have done it. They had so much there to work with. They just didn't do it. So if it was an Insecticon, like if they'd call this guy Shrapnel or something like that, then maybe I would have liked it better, just because it's the character, You gotta support the character. But since it's Crankcase, I mean, what the heck is Crankcase? But anyway, of course, yeah. So that's my take on Dark of the Moon Crankcase. Not too many of these Dark of the Moon toys are really hitting me. I mean, I know I like them, but they just don't seem to be up to par. I don't know. We need something better, something bigger, something more ultimate.